Hello everyone and welcome to a game a lot of you have requested yesterday. It's a game between Ll CHESSZero and Stockfish, and if you guys did not know this, you'd probably think this was Adolf Anderson on steroids playing with the white pieces. This game is absolutely amazing, and it is one of the reasons I don't show that many engine games or neural network games on my channel, because these games are extremely addictive and you will not be able to get enough of them. So this is just one game, and then we're back to human chess. Maybe I'm going to throw in a game here and there, but it's very dangerous to get hooked on these games. So let's check it out. It's a variant of chess called Chess 960 where the pieces are scrambled a little bit, but I also think that it's very interesting how the engines play such positions, because when you have humans playing Chess 960, and there are a lot of Chess 960 tournaments nowadays, for example, compared to 5 years ago, it's humans always try to get some sort of a familiar background, just to get somewhere where they feel comfortable. They want to castle to safety. They want to play it like a normal game of chess. Whereas here, you'll see it's a completely different story. So let's check it out. This is like an amazing story. So Ll with the white pieces opens with knight to g3. Stockfish replies with c5, so both players controlling the center, Ll with the knights, Stockfish with the pawn, and now already knight to h5, just going after that g7 pawn as it's undefended. So here, queen to e5, defending the pawn and attacking the knight on h5, and now g4, defending the knight. We have e6, preparing to get the bishop into the game. Also, if white moves the f-pawn, also bishop to h4 might be an idea. So knight to d3, attacking the queen, and queen to g5. And now Ll starts attacking the black queen. And you can see how Stockfish doesn't mind about human principles. As we often say, don't bring your queen out too early. Here, Stockfish is playing exclusively with the queen. We have, after queen g5, we have e4, now preparing f4. And c4 now, attacking the knight. Here we have f4, attacking the queen, g6, and the queen to f5. So what do you do here? We capture on f5 once, e captures, and now bishop to h4, delivering check. Ll blocks with the bishop, and now capturing the bishop isn't all that impressive, because after captures and captures, it's not fun for this black queen here. For example, if queen g5, we can just castle, and what do you play here? It's such a bad position for black that it's hard to even find the move. If you try something like g6 to get the knight away from there, just knight e4. We attack the queen, and both of the knights are now attacking f6, and that's pretty much it. Queen here, knight here with check, and black is terrible. So instead, after bishop to f2, we have queen to g5, and now what does white play as Lilla's knight is hanging on d3? Well, Lilla doesn't care. Lilla just castles kingside and says you are welcome to grab the knight. So Stockfish captures the knight, and now bishop captures on h4, queen captures, and now even f6. Grabbing control of that king side, and if you don't develop the bishop and knight, black can never castle king side. So what do you play here? You could capture, of course, but then knight captures. This is just well, it's bad. Both moves that Stockfish can play are bad, but Stockfish chooses a closed structure. He plays g6, and now we have knight to g7 check, king to d8, and now c captures on d3. So just like that, sacrifice the knight on d3, now recapturing this, but what did Lilla get in return? Well, the complete blockade of black's king side. So the rook cannot move, the bishop cannot move, the knight cannot move. So how can you continue here? And it's very interesting that Lilla considers this position to be a 1.5 advantage for white, whereas Stockfish considers it to be an almost 3 advantage for white. So knight to d6, Stockfish also needs to get his pieces into the game, and now what do we always say when you play with the white pieces? What do you have to do? Well, of course, you have to push b4. And again, breaking human principles a little bit, we often say that you should not be expanding on the king side as well as the queen side, but engines and neural networks have changed this idea quite some time ago, because now we know it's actually perfectly fine to push both on the king side and on the queen side. So queen g5, and now as the d2 pawn is hanging, we have queen to b2. But queen to b2 is also a very deadly threat, as you'll see. We have rook to c8, Stockfish gets the rook into the game, now comes a4, and knight to e8, now offering a trade of knights, but now comes another brilliant move by Lilla, and that is h4. Brilliant move. Okay, it's also a question for you. can black capture the h4 pawn? Feel free to pause the video here and try to figure out why black can or cannot capture the h4 pawn while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on realizing that the h4 pawn is most definitely off limits. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, queen to d5 is what Stockfish played. But just in case you didn't find it, if queen h4, just queen e5, and that's it. There's no defense against queen to e7. You're going to lose the rook, and it's a game over. So instead, after h4, we have queen to d5, keeping an eye on that e5 square, and now g5. Look at this beautiful blockade on the king's side. And it seems like the white king is completely open, but you know, you just don't care because black doesn't have any pieces in the game, and Leela will continue developing with tempo. So here, knight to d6, bishop to f3, even offering another pawn. So queen captures on d3, and now rook to a3. Like I said, Adolf Andersen on steroids. This is just amazing development. And now, not moving the queen, but rather knight to c4, offering a queen trade. And now it's also very interesting that Stockfish considers this as a 2.5 advantage for white, whereas Leela already considers it a 6-point advantage for white. So here, Leela very gladly trades, rook captures, knight captures, and now rook to d5. So what do you play? Do you capture the a4 pawn? And interestingly, white is still down a piece, but black cannot move the rook, the bishop, or the knight. So here we have rook to c4. If you capture the a4 pawn, then rook a5 goes after the a7 pawn, so you don't want to do that. So rook to c4 instead, going after the b4 pawn, and now a5 by Leela. Again, offering the b4 pawn, but if you capture this, then rook e1, rook to e7, rook captures here, rook captures here. It's just complete mess. So instead, we have king to c8, trying to get the rook into the game, at least via the rook d8 move, and now we have b5. So just pushing both on the king side and on the queen side. We have rook to d8. Finally, we've developed the rook, but it's still hard to imagine that the bishop and knight will ever see the light of day. So here, rook to e1, and now we have rook to f4, going after the bishop here. King g2 defending, and now h6, trying to free up the king side somehow, but it's not happening. King g3, now comes rook to a4, going after the a5 pawn, and now just knight to e8. And again, can Stockfish capture on a5? Most certainly he cannot, because if captures, then we're going to play knight to d6 check, and after, let's say, king b8, now we're going to play rook to c1. And again, it's such a disgusting position for black. There's really no move you can make here. To give you an example, if b6, we can just play knight b7, fork the rooks, and that's it. White wins. If you capture the knight, then it's rook captures on d7 check, and after the king moves, we're just going to capture this with checkmate, as well, the bishop covers b7, the rook covers c7, and that's checkmate for you. So instead, after knight to e8, we have knight to c4, and now comes rook to e4, putting pressure on the knight, and now there are so many tactics working here for white, it's just even pointless to continue this with black, even though black is still up a piece. So here, h captures on g5, h captures on g5, and now b6 here, but no move you play really makes a difference. If you want to sidestep the fork, we still play knight d6. We put pressure on the knight. After knight captures, rook captures on a4, and you are, again, dead lost here. There's nothing you can do. So after h captures on g5, we have b6. Now comes rook captures on c4. As you might have imagined, rook captures, knight to d6 check. We win some material back. King to b8, knight captures on c4, and b captures on a5. So finally, white grabbed back the piece, but still black is up a pawn. But it doesn't really matter all that much. You still can't get this bishop and knight into the game. So there are some games where you can't get your bishop or the knight into the game, and then we feel very sad for that piece. But here, both pieces is just I mean, it's hard to look at. So king f4, we have a4, pushing the passed pawn, but I mean, who are we kidding? King to e5, we have rook to c8, attacking the knight, and now another slap in the face. Rook captures on d7, offering the knight on c4. If the knight is captured, then we just play rook b7 check, and you can't move to a8 because this will be checkmate in a few moves. So after the king moves, you're going to capture here, and it seems like you can, you know, just start gobbling up pieces, but these pieces are never getting into the game, so you don't really care about them. For example, if rook c5, king d6, rook captures on b5, we can just play rook to e7, and now all of these squares are covered. Bishop covers b7. This is the threat of checkmate. There's nothing you can do here. If rook b6, just bishop here, and that's it. again, you're getting checkmated. Even if you give up the rook for a bishop, we still have a rook against a bishop and knight that are non-existent, basically. So here, after rook captures on d7, rook to c7 was played, trying to trade off a pair of rooks, but now king d6. Just completely brutal. Again, offering the knight, but, well, you have to capture it. There's no move you can make here. So here, rook captures on c4 was played. Now comes rook to b7 check. Again, we said that if you move the king, rook b6 will be checkmate. Once the rook blocks the check from the bishop, this is checkmate. So after this, rook to b7 check, king to c8 is played. Now comes rook captures on a7, and now rook d4 check. Bishop to d5. Again, look at this. All of these squares are covered. This is the threat of checkmate, and there is no move. Stockfish has to give up the rook. We have king captures, and now a3, pushing the passed pawn, but now king to c6. We have king to b8, you don't want to get checkmated, but now just rook captures on a3. We have bishop to h7, and this is a beautiful position because black has only two moves here. You can move the king to c8, but this ends in checkmate, of course, so the king can't move, and your only other move in the position is bishop to h7. The knight is, wow. So bishop to h7 was played, b6 now, there is no defense against b7 and checkmate. Bishop to g8, we have b7, bishop to h7, and here comes rook to a8 with checkmate. So really an amazing game, and it really shows you how I mean, if you saw a human playing such a game, we would like maybe imagine you know, once in a lifetime Adolf Andersen or maybe Vasily Ivanchuk on a really good day could maybe muster up something like this. But I mean, it's very, very hard to imagine. So it definitely is like poetry, and it's one of the reasons why engine games, even though some of you are against them and don't like them, they can be incredible. And once you see something like this, it's very, very hard to go back to human chess. So that's why I don't show them all that often. But, you know, from time to time, when there's a really good one like this, then I will most definitely show it. So yeah, that's the game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed it very much and deeply, so I'm very happy for myself. And I would like to thank Pablo Mohan, Mulham Hiasi, Miss Sandra Brennan, John McNabb, and Thomas Viterli for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions, such as this one and whatever else is happening in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.